if you grew up, anywhere near a TV in the late 90s, early 2000s, that word Nickelodeon just hits a certain way,
Oh, yeah.
especially when you pair it with all that. It wasn't just a channel, it was everything. The slime, the orange blimp.
A whole culture.
Exactly. And the kids on those shows, they sort of feel like cousins you haven't seen in 20 years. Which is why we have to start today with some really, really difficult breaking news out of Brooklyn. A face from that era, Kianna Underwood, has died.
It's a tragic story and a really brutal one. She was only 33 years old. And while we're going to spend time today on her work, her career, we also have to look at the forensic reality of how she died.
Yeah.
The reports from the NYPD describe a hit and run from yesterday, Friday, January 16th. But to be precise, and this is the part that's just so hard to stomach, it wasn't just one, it was a double hit and run.
That detail is, it's just hard to even process. This is someone who was on screen with legends, part of all that universe, and for her life to end so violently on a city street.
It's shocking.
So our mission today is kind of twofold. First, we need to unpack what happened, the timeline, the conflicting reports, the vehicles police are searching for. But we also have to honor the life. We need to look at her career, from voice acting to the stage.
Exactly. I think it's important to balance those two things. We have a duty to understand the circumstances, especially since the drivers are still out there. But we also have to remember who she was. This isn't just a headline. This was a working actor with real range.
Okay, so let's start there. Let's start with the work, because that's what I think will resonate with so many people. The headlines all say Nickelodeon star. Right. And that's true. She was a cast member on all that in its final season, 2005. But just saying that doesn't really capture what that meant back then.
No, it doesn't. She was in 7 episodes, but getting a spot on all of that was a massive deal.
Oh, absolutely. It was basically Saturday Night Live for kids. It was a talent incubator.
The ultimate incubator.
You just look at the names that came out of there. Kenan Thompson, who's now an SNL legend himself. Nick Cannon, Amanda Bynes. If you made it onto that show, you were in the big leagues for young performers.
It meant you had comedic chops, you could do character work, live sketches, all of it. So even though she was in the final season, she's part of that incredible legacy. But her connection to our childhoods actually goes back even further.
This is the part I found so fascinating. Before she was on camera for Nick, she was a voice.
A very specific voice.
For anyone who had a younger sibling or was a Nick Jr. kid from 1999 to 2004, she was the voice of Fuchsia Glover on the show Little Bill.
And that was a long run, 5 years.
23 episodes.
Yeah, and Little Bill was a staple. So for 5 years, Kianna Underwood's voice was in millions of homes. It's that kind of subconscious thing, you might not know the face, but you'd know the voice.
It also just shows her range, right? Voice acting is a totally different skill set. But she wasn't just a TV kid. She was working with some serious heavy hitters in film.
She was. I saw she was in a movie called The 24-Hour Woman.
And look at the cast list on that. Rosie Perez, Marianne Jean-Baptiste, Patti LuPone.
Patti LuPone.
That's theater royalty. You don't get on a set with Patti LuPone by accident.
Yeah.
And she was also in Death of a Dynasty, that Kevin Hart satire.
So you've got this portfolio of Rosie Perez, Kevin Hart, sketch comedy, animation. It really shows how adaptable she was. She was born in NYC, moved to LA to pursue all this. She had the hustle.
And we haven't even gotten to her stage work yet. She was on the first national tour of Hairspray.
For a full year, playing Little Inez.
Which is a huge part. It's all high energy singing and dancing. And national tours are a grind. It just paints this picture of a really talented, hardworking performer, a true triple threat.
Precisely. And knowing all that context of her talent and vibrancy, that's what makes pivoting to the details of what happened yesterday so difficult.
It's a really jarring shift. So, okay, let's move to the incident itself. We have to be specific here because the police need help. This happened yesterday, Friday morning. It was early, around 6:50 a.m.
The location is the Brownsville neighborhood in Brooklyn. Now, there is a slight discrepancy in the sources about the exact intersection.
Okay.
The New York Post says Pitkin Boulevard at Mother Gaston. People and ABC News say Watkins Street and Pitkin Avenue.
Which, for anyone who knows that area, that's basically the same spot.
Exactly. It confirms the location. So it's just before 7 a.m. It's January, so it's probably still dark out. And Kianna Underwood is crossing the street.
This is where it gets complicated, right? The reports conflict a little.
They do. The New York Post, citing police sources, says she was crossing against the light. But the report in People says she was in the crosswalk.
And those two things aren't necessarily mutually exclusive, I guess.
Not at all. You could be in the crosswalk but crossing against a signal. We just don't know for sure yet. But honestly, regardless of the traffic signal, what the driver did next is the crime.
Exactly. You stop. You always stop. But that is not what happened. So she's crossing the street and the first impact happens.
Right. ABC and people are specific here. They identify the vehicle as a black Ford Explorer SUV. It struck her.
And did not stop.
Did not stop. Fled the scene.
Which is horrific enough. Just a hit and run at dawn. But what happened next is what makes this just a complete nightmare.
This is the detail that's... it's just hard to wrap your head around. Kianna is now lying in the street from that first hit.
Yeah.
Incapacitated. And a second vehicle comes. This one is described as a black and gray sedan.
And this driver, they must have seen her.
You would think. But we know what they did, which was not stop either. And the New York Post had this harrowing detail from a police source.
I saw that.
That the second vehicle, it dragged her. It dragged her for several hundred feet.
Several hundred feet. I mean, just picture that. That's not a bump. That is a significant distance to be driving with a person attached to your car.
It's a level of inhumanity that's just shocking. A double hit and run, two separate drivers saw a person in the road, hit that person, and both made the independent choice to just leave her there.
And the result was, of course, fatal. Kianna Underwood was pronounced dead at the scene.
Right there on the street in Brownsville.
So that brings us to the aftermath. As of today, Saturday, the NYPD's Collision Investigation Squad is on it. But the bottom line is, no arrests.
No arrests. Both drivers, the one in the black Ford Explorer and the one in the black and gray sedan, are still at large.
Now, there's one more detail from the New York Post report. It just adds another layer of complete tragedy to this, and we need to handle it with some care.
Yes. The Post cited police sources who revealed that Kianna Underwood was homeless at the time of her death.
It's just a gut punch. You think about the Nickelodeon studios, the Hairspray tour, working with Rosie Perez, and then to end up in that situation at just 33 years old.
It's a very hard truth. And the sources don't explain how or why. We don't know the circumstances. But it's this incredibly stark contrast. We freeze these child stars in our minds at, age 15.
Yeah.
We don't see the struggles that can happen after the cameras go off. Her last credit was from 2005. That's over 20 years ago.
That is a long time. And it makes you wonder about the support systems or lack thereof. But like you said, we don't know the specifics of her life in those years.
And that reality is that a young woman, regardless of her fame or her housing status, was the victim of a brutal crime. The fact she was homeless may speak to her vulnerability, but the focus has to be on the criminality of those drivers. Her status doesn't diminish the tragedy.
Yeah.
If anything, it highlights it.
So for anyone listening in New York, what are police looking for, practically speaking?
Well, the NYPD is looking for those two cars. A black Ford Explorer, likely with front-end damage, and a black and gray sedan, which would probably have significant damage to the undercarriage after what was reported.
And you just have to think, someone saw something, or someone knows a person who came home yesterday morning with a damaged car acting strangely.
Exactly, and it just reminds you of the fragility of it all. Here's someone who had this promising start, all this talent, and for it to be cut short at 33 is just devastating.
It really is. And, we started this by talking about nostalgia, about all that in Little Bill, and I think it's important to hold on to that piece of it. Kianna Underwood brought joy to a lot of people. She made kids laugh. That matters.
It absolutely matters. That work is her legacy. Those sketches, those voiceover episodes, for some kid watching TV on a Saturday morning in 2002, she was a presence, a friend.
Yeah.
And that doesn't just disappear because she fell on hard times.
That's a really good point. We can't let the final awful day of her life erase the work she did.
Agreed.
So, to recap for everyone, Kianna Underwood, age 33, a talented performer from all that Little Bill and Hairspray, was killed yesterday, January 16th, in a double hit and run in Brownsville, Brooklyn.
And police are still actively searching for a black Ford Explorer SUV and a black and gray sedan. If you have any information at all, please contact the NYPD.
For the rest of us, it's just a moment to reflect, I think. Life is so unpredictable. It's a reminder to be kinder, maybe. Everyone has a story we can't see.
I think that's right. And I want to leave our listeners with this one thought about fame and how we consume it. We watch these kids grow up on our screens, we laugh at their sketches, but there's a really haunting question here. How does our society track its young stars after the show ends? We remember them as Fuchsia or Little Inez, but once those credits roll for the last time, and for Kianna, that was 2005, where does the support go? The spotlight is incredibly bright. but it seems the shadows it leaves behind are just as deep.
That is a lot to think about. It really reframes those "where are they now" segments, doesn't it? We usually only look for the huge success story or the tragedy, not much in between.
That's the reality. And today, unfortunately, we're looking at the tragedy.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. It was a difficult one, but an important one. We wanted to make sure Kianna Underwood was remembered for more than a police report. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time.
Stay safe.